Giant size! What
Is this the home of the Whopper?
We are here. Giant size frosted flakes.
Hello, fellow enthusiasts.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode with NCPA Outdoors. I'm Joel.
And I'm Chris. And true to our name, NCPA Outdoors, we're North Central PA.
Yeah, and one thing that if you're in the north central portion of Pennsylvania that you're well aware of is this. A lot of the gas activity coming through. Now we're fortunate enough to have state land that abuts a lot of our property here. Unfortunately, the state is very willing to allow this type of activity to come through. So we're going to talk about some of the positives and the negatives of having some gas activity coming through your area coming up. So here in Tioga County, if you're in that area or anywhere in north central Pennsylvania, you're well aware of the gas activity that's going on here. We have an abundance of natural gas below us as far as the Marcellus Shale is concerned. And with that gas comes the infrastructure. So some of the pros and the cons that go along with it we want to cover in today's episode, and let's get into it.
Yeah, because depending on where you're at, whether you're for natural gas, you're against natural gas, like you said, there's a pro to it, there's a con to it. So really the premise behind this episode is just kind of give our thoughts, kind of see what thoughts viewers have, and just take the conversation from there.
Sure. I mean, a lot of hunting cabins in this area have several hundred to several thousand acres, and a lot of them are impacted by this type of activity. Now, a lot of the leasing stuff and a lot of the well pads, they've come and gone. A lot of that activity is slowed down. What's going on now is this. They're putting the pipelines in to tie into those well pads.
So here across the northern tier of Pennsylvania and the southern tier of New York, this mountain terrain is really unforgiving.
It really is. I mean, we have the benefit of a hard mass crop between the oak trees and the beech nuts, but ultimately if you followed our channel for some time, you'll know that we spend a lot of time and input a lot of energy into our food plots. We're trying to bring this ground to a productive state to support the deer herd and the turkey flock, as well as all the other wildlife that provides a lot of enjoyment for us here on the property. But ultimately we lack a lot of the farmland that the southwestern portion and the southern section, I guess, of Pennsylvania as a whole have. You know, they have that fertile farmland, a lot of soybean, a lot of corn, and we just don't have that here in the north.
Yeah, so I guess that's one of the things you can consider a pro by having this pipeline right of way is it's going to open up a lot of natural forage.
It really is, and I think the benefit to this is you can actually do some light food plotting on top of these areas once these guys are out of here and have their system in place. If you'll see back behind us here, you see a windrow to the left. There's all the topsoil was pushed off, what topsoil there was, and they have it all seeded out right now. There's a grass crop growing up to try to keep that soil in place. Once this pipe's in the ground, they're going to push all that native soil back on top, and we'll have a decent seed bed to come back in here. Now this pipeline is actually on the state right away, but once you get further down here, we have another property that we lease and we get on there and do some hunting. So ultimately we don't have this facility on our property, but it really benefits us because a lot of the areas that we hunt and the properties that we lease, this system is going through there. So
right.
we're still going to utilize this to our advantage.
So that's one pro, is having the forage. Is there a second one?
I see a second pro is we're actually defining some areas here. So strategic hunting, you know, you're going to have this open area. This is going to be a grazing area. Now on either side of this, a lot of the canopy and the wood line is going to grow in a little bit thicker. So this could probably create some micro bedding areas possibly. It'll change the direction of the deer travel. I know on the back side of us here it's not as extreme, but they're cutting vertical walls on the edge of this when they're going through some of the, I guess, the steeper terrain. So the deer aren't going to want to walk through those steeper vertical areas. They're going to go around them. So it's going to change the activity. There's two areas that I hunt down below here that the deer patterns, they're changed forever because of this system.
Right.
So one was a negative, the other one is actually a positive. It's going to push them right past one of my hunting stands.
Yeah, and really by having this right of way on property that is not ours, even though, I mean, we all are stakeholders in state ground.
Absolutely.
You really, I mean, we don't have much of a choice. It's here whether we wanted it or not. So we really kind of have to come at it with an open mind. You know, yes, there's pros, yes, there's cons, but I mean, it's really hard to decide whether you like it or you don't like it.
It is. I mean, this is benefiting everybody in the state of Pennsylvania. The right-of-way that was paid to put this through here went to the citizens of the Commonwealth because this is state forest. Now, we have property right there, and we actively hunt through here. Now, this mountain was untouched for years, and you just have to accept it because this wasn't our ground. But we're going to make do with it. We're going to see it as a positive. Let's throw in a couple negatives. What do you see as a negative to this whole system?
Well, negatives, I definitely see ATV traffic, and that's going to be a problem.
Absolutely. And I know that's one thing that everybody enjoys, myself included. We use ATVs, but when I'm in the woods in archery season, there's not a lot of archery hunters out there. And you got people up in the fall, and they're at their hunting cabin, they're having a good time, and they see this as a highway for ATVs. Ultimately, it's not a state trail, and it's not an approved pipeline access through someone else's property because the property down here is posted that we have leased. So, you know, that's an extreme negative in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, you and I, our whole family, we grew up on ATVs, four-wheelers, motorcycles, so it's not like we're anti-ATV. We've rode them all our lives now, but yeah, definitely, when you're in the woods hunting, that's the last thing you want to hear.
And if you know NCPA Outdoors, you know we're avid archery hunters. We like to spend a lot of time in the fall. Honestly, I think it's the best time to be in the woods.
Yeah, definitely.
It's comfortable weather out. The leaves are changing. It's beautiful outside. You know, you're with nature. But everybody else is in the woods too, riding around, playing on their ATVs and their motorcycles, camping. They're having a good time just the same. And there's nothing wrong with it, but they see these pipelines as an ATV highway, and that's not the case. You know, even though it is on state ground, you can walk through there, but it's not an approved ATV trail. So do us all a favor, put the tags on there, make sure you pay your DCNR registration, but keep them on state trails, keep them off the pipelines.
Yeah, and even if you are riding state trails, you don't know when you're no longer on state trails.
You really, yeah, absolutely.
You know,
I mean, it's
at least with the pipeline. If you're on a natural trail,
yeah, most of those are flagged pretty good. You know, if you've watched the channel, you know I have a grizzly and spend a lot of time on that. It's a fun toy and it's a fun tool. So I see it as both a functional and a recreational vehicle, but ultimately, you know, on private land and even on state forest land, when hunting season's in, if you're not on an approved trail, you know, I got DCNR on speed dial and the ranger's going to be out here pretty quick. It just, to me, it's not legal and it's not approved. Another negative that I see is while they're putting this system in, there are a lot of workers.
Yeah, especially last fall when they first started doing this, sitting in a tree stand. It's all day long, 6 days a week. Beep, beep, beep. I mean, I don't want to listen to that in my tree stand.
And honestly, I think we're going to give you a promotion to our sound effects guy. But I have to agree, it's been nonstop, and I understand it's, you know, something that has to take place.
So far today, I've only seen those 3 doe first thing this morning that I didn't get on video. And about 10 minutes later, there was another one. I don't know if you can hear that in the background. There's a freaking well pad about a mile behind me. And it sounds like a freaking 747. so glad when that freaking thing's out of here.
You know, I completely agree with you, Chris. But it's something that has to take place, and we accept that. We understand that. But they've done a really good job at flagging these right-of-ways out. Unfortunately, there are several instances, and we've unfortunately had to deal with it, where their employees don't respect those flags that they have in place.
That's our workspace, and we generally try to stay on the right of way.
We've had several cases of trespass, and they've been good about it when approached, but you know, we're only here a few days a week, and so who knows what happens when we're not here. So it's something that we have to deal with, I guess. We shouldn't have to deal with it, but we've done the best that we can with it.
Right.
I definitely see that as a negative.
Yeah, that's just what I was going to say too. Whether or not you've signed a lease for the right-of-way or you haven't signed a lease, if you haven't and they're not respecting your property rights, then that's definitely a negative.
Yeah, I agree. The other point that you made here earlier was all the equipment just going nonstop through hunting season and after it. To sit in a tree stand, it can become quite annoying hearing that stuff around the clock, and it really does go around the clock.
Yeah.
But we're hoping here that this is a short duration for all this activity taking place. It's been about a year and a half now that we've been dealing with it, and I think with the sight of the pipelines coming, that it is at the last chapter of the natural gas saga that we have to deal with in this area. So hopefully it's just minor maintenance from here on into the future, and we get to reap some of the benefits that's associated with the pipelines and the gas lines.
So at this point, I think we came up with an equal amount of pros and cons, and I mean, at this stage in the game, with what we've experienced so far, I can't really come up with too many other things.
Yeah, there's a lot of minor things that you could list on both sides of the scale, but what we really want to know is what you guys think. So put some feedback out there for us. Let us know what's happened to you guys, or what you see as an additional pro and a con, I guess, that would affect us positively and negatively out of this situation in the comments below. Let's hear from our viewership.
Yeah, and I'd really like to see what people think, both on the side of if you're involved with the pipeline, whether or not you have either, you know, the right-of-way going through your property, or if it's next to your property. If you're involved in it, you know, what are your thoughts on it? If you're not involved in it, but it's happening around you, what are your thoughts on it as well?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we've had the benefit, and I guess I can see it as a benefit, that this isn't running through our property. So all of my hunting stands are still intact. They haven't been disturbed by the right-of-way, the cutting of the trees through the forest land that we own. You know, this is on state land out in the outskirts of our property here, and the next property down is the piece that we lease. So we're not directly affected, but a lot of our hunting activities are.
Yeah.
So, you know, let us know what you guys think. What's happened in your neck of the woods? What do you see as a pro that we could potentially gain out of this in the future? You know, we're looking at food plotting, or increasing our overall food plotting activity here. We're looking at some of the bedding areas that are going to improve by the outskirts of the pipeline right away. You know, what other pros are out there for us?
Yeah.
Let's spin a positive out of this situation and move forward.
Yep, sounds good. So I guess we'll close this episode for now. Hope to hear from a lot of you guys in the comments below, and we'll follow up with another episode related to the same topic.
Sounds good. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and look forward to seeing you guys next time.
See ya.